the other side of sexual trauma. It's Elena! Okay, so often when we think of sexual trauma, we think of rape, we think of, sexual abuse of children, we think of experiences where the one party was not willing. And I want to talk about the other side of sexual trauma today, which is sex that you engage in that is not something you actually want to do, or sex that you engage in that where you're being silent and not speaking your truth about what it is that you really want, or sex that you start because you want to be part of, but then you decide you don't want to, but you keep going. This was a fundamental part of one of my first experiences with ending a relationship was this piece of like lying on my back, being like, I'm not having fun, and I'm not gonna tell you this is done, and I've repeated that pattern forward into my adult life, not anymore, yay, but for quite a while, as I was unconscious in my sexuality, I was in this space of just like, I really wanted the masculine attention, I really wanted the engagement from another person. It made me feel validated, it made me feel loved, it made me feel whole and happy and in this like high vibing space. And at the same time, what that meant is that I would do basically anything within my relationships to get to that space, which meant that I was like overly like clingy, grabby, seductive, trying to get my partners to engage in that sexual space with me, which is like the most unattractive thing that you can do when it comes to seduction. Instead of like inviting in, there's this like, come here, be with me. And on the other side of it was, what that often meant was that I would work to get that initial attraction, and then because I'd worked so hard to get it, when I finally got it, whatever happened from that space, I was like, thank God somebody's paying attention to me sexually, yay, whatever you want to do it. Which meant that I wasn't really honoring my turn on, I wasn't really honoring what I wanted, I wasn't able to communicate that, and this left scars within my body of feeling like I wasn't worthy, I wasn't able to be loved in a way that I wanted to be loved. I didn't have a right to say, touch me slower, kiss my neck, please. And so that resulted in this place where it was like, okay, now we're on, open your legs, let's have some sex, go, and just from this space of really like the intense desiring and the intense return, and really missing the point of union and desire and fulfillment, like totally. And so it took time for me to move out of that pattern. It took time, and it took awareness, and it took this space of, bringing a lot of mindfulness to sexual practice, learning boundaries, learning like, how do I, in a gentle and loving way, communicate to somebody who I've been having not the best sex with that things need to change. Like, how do you go about doing that? And a lot of it is creating space outside of the sexual arena to communicate. And so that means taking time the next day, or maybe a couple of days after a sexual encounter, to say, hey, I want to have a conversation about this. These are some of the things that worked for me. These are some of the things that didn't work for me. Holding space for the other person while they share that as well. And basically just moving into this place of beginning that conversation, And this can be difficult if you have a history of not communicating. Being in relationship in this space is actually a little bit more difficult, I think, for some people than just finding a new, like being single and finding a new lover and starting from a better place with that lover. So if you're single, kudos, good on you, finish what you're doing, move on to the next piece, but start to create these healthy patterns of communicating where, you tell people what it is that you want and what you want to do, and you have that conversation before you really get hot and heavy into that, because telling somebody what it is that you want is a turn on. They want, like, in general, if you're with a man of any caliber who is somebody you actually want to be having sexual encounters with, you want them, they want you to feel good. So they're happy to hear what it is that you want and then return that. Now, if you're hanging out with men who don't care about how you feel and they're just using you for their own sexual gratification, there's a whole other ballgame, and you just like, there's some work that needs to be done to just like put that aside. But for the most part, that's a reflection of you and what's going on inside of you, and a reflection of your own self-love and your own willingness to show up in a space of surrender, in a space of love, in a space of, you can show up from a space of love even with somebody you've just met. You can show up from a space of love even with somebody you don't know that well. You can show up from a space of love even with somebody who you've been with for a long time, and maybe you don't have that space of love as a normal part of your intimacy. Oh, there's so much to learn. How do you open this heart? How do you open this pussy? How do you open this yoni? And really like move into a space of total body ecstasy with another person. I love it. Okay. Some things to think about today. Boundaries, asking for what you want, creating space for a conversation after the act, and coming from a place of love and desire, and love and desire, and love and desire in your body when you move into a space of intimacy. Let me know what you think. Put your comments below, and let's have a discussion. More than anything, I want to have a discussion about it, okay? Adios.